Yep, thank you. Bit of Magritte there for a second. So this is called Cubist Portrait of Hippolytus. So it's a piece of classicism. I was wandering around the streets out here and I saw how popular classicism was, so I thought I'd go for this guy. It takes about 12 minutes. It's basically a retelling of a Greek myth. It's pretty faithful. I change one little bit in it. I put a little insertion in at one point, but that's quite traditional as well. The poet Edmund Spenser, who was an English poet, a Renaissance poet, who grabbed some land in Ireland at one point, he put the myth this way. He said, Hippolytus a jolly huntsman was, that wont in chariot chase the foaming boar. His father fierce, who ale in rage his sea-god sire besought, some cursed vengeance on his son to cast. Both chariot swift and huntsman overcast, his goodly corpse on ragged cliffs he rent, was quite dismembered. Then brought to Escalape, that by his art did heal them all again and join it every part. So the basic story is you have this prince called Hippolytus. He is a devotee of the goddess Artemis, the goddess of hunting, and he loves hunting himself, and he rides his chariot about. And unfortunately, he angers his father. And his father, who happens to be Prince Theseus, calls in a favor from the god Poseidon and has Hippolytus killed by a sea monster. Hippolytus is out charioteering, a sea monster attacks him, he ends up in the rocks and he's torn to pieces. Now Artemis doesn't like this because Hippolytus was her devotee. So Artemis decides that she has to do something about this, so she knows that Asclepius, the demigod of, don't get confused now, the demigod of healing, who's the son of her brother Apollo, he has this kind of magic branch that can bring people back to life again, so she demands of him that, that Hippolytus be brought back to life. And so it happens. All the pieces come together and everything is fine. That's in Edmund Spenser's version. I add in a little extra bit. I feel that there's something missing there, that this would all work, but there's an extra bit necessary someplace along the way. So I bring in an extra kind of episode where the god Hermes has to come in, get a secret new ingredient. He goes off a little expedition to get it, brings it back, and then everything is great. The body is put back together again. Hippolytus is alive and ready. In Edmund Spenser, something very violent happens after that, but I stop at that point. There's no violence. Cubist Portrait of Hippolytus. In the instant after the bang that begins, the crash to the roar of the long wave sea animal, Hippolytus cast horsepower to helpless and his careering car on hard matter, scattered bones, flesh, more fluid stuff, metal, mixed without prejudice on the rocks. In that instant of ink-dark upsurge to the earth's pound of breakers, shells strewing loud, of beasts bold, machine veers, unharnessed from mastery, wheels free, and the charioteer, this integral man, creditworthy, sound stock of faithless Theseus, the popular of breastless Hippolytus, line consigned, haphazard to particles sprayed, as stars are on a plain. In that instant starts the goddess, the chaste one, at the cry, reaching her ear, speedier than sight of the stricken, picked in flight, her devotee, strict darling, dismantled of manhood and already on the shore, her foot shining contour, slipping through the windstream, touching down, and quick in her train, soft bathers exchanging bank for beach to stare, too late after Matt's account, all too plain on the table laid out. Instantly in advance of a scream from virgin viewers, solicited by horror, the huntress, Artemis, the clean-limbed by eye imperious, stilling the Oceanids as with a cry, bay-echoing Iris, the swift one, bridger of distance, is summoned. Skates on Technicolor film to arrive at the ear of Hygiene, sire, the healer, so flashback, quicker than ideas, the pair, to the theatre of blood and stone, frozen chorus, and the one brought low. Instantly, when said Leto's offspring, who delights, as delights the Delian in the strike of darts, when that engine of miracles, prodigious plan, store of restoration, conveyed from its mine of know-how by a snake, is yours, son of consumed Coronis, why not? When promise radiant, guarantee of joyous growth, swelling notability is smashed by no necessity but bossed by economy of chance, why not? When this happy sportsman, excelling in chase, fearing nor boar nor wildcat, dutiful in divine returns, is marked by a lascivious tongue, low competition of faithless father, and the sea's ranks, for sudden wreck, son of Phlegius, whose skin is lit by flame encircled underground, why not? When his value to me is such, when no word recorded that prohibits save what I say now, let limit be crossed, let flesh, beloved life, rebind, wheels, rewhirl, why not? At which, in instant assent, the silent helper extends ability, over parts all strewn, strives to assemble what had been, hunts the elements of recreation, gathers germs of a new nature, picks through the debris, uncovers precious pieces intact so precious, of the inert prince laid under curse on desert. That is one. Crown, segment of, as raised by rights with official marks of majesty, seat of merit, pedestaled, holding position as property, parent arranged, patented, owed deference, source of propriety, proper, etc. 2. Foot, nearly whole, left, as held the level, one among the huntsmen, without precedence among trees, obedient to the logic of the chase, teamster subordinate to the outcome, effectual, etc. 3. Hand, damaged, right, the generous, not incognizant of misfortune, uncareless with the poor, giving on feast days from wealth, the welcome coin, growth met with gratitude, extended through agents, spread kingdoms wide, manipulative, etc. 4. Limbs, various, torso, as if tooled, well exercised, fitted to tasks, powering, quick fixes of fault, trim, sufficiently strong, without excess, exact, etc. 5. Heart, part of, propelling the greater, ever ready, ever active in whatever act, beating faster for early rising, never pausing, beating late and hard, whenever acquired, exemplary organ, busy, etc. 6. Eyeball, whole, undeceived, undistracted in the tangle, reductive of the scene, to need in the matter, narrowed, focused on the quarry, seeing its end only, directing the weapons sharp, etc. 7. Hand, left, section of, as cut, the dispatcher, dealing the blow to the wounded, without hope, never shirking, kindness at the kill, humane, definite, etc. 8. Ear, entire, receptive to noise, background hiss, aware of wave sound, the abyssal sea, the upsurger, the wall assaulter, the night crier, the eater of piles, the robber of deposits, the sacker of shore, register of threat, prescient, resonant shell, doomful, etc. 9. In addition, sinew, muscly cable, nervous thread, small bones, numerous. What remains too fluid, smashed, milled, mangled, or unrecognized in the physics art he passed over, and modeling with prebiotic slop makes order and the mold of man. For an instant, long instant, hushed, but for the surf sound, the bright nymphs, like starlets, surrounding, fixed by the scene, anticipant of escape, the heroes, from certainty of heydays, Asclepius, unpicker of mysteries, worker of wellness, applies it, the therapeutic twig, sappy rod, reviver and sustainer, same passed through deceptive port to flee and Aeneas, until, sensational to behold, begins hinging and adhesion, pieces linking to pieces, joints generate, circuits, networks knit, reparations spread throughout the frame, and all immortal, witnessing the apparition, wonder, will spirit return, instinct spark, fell instant reverse, and the course of death. Instantly twitchings, tremblings in one sector, upturn of a finger, heart runs and syncopations, thrilling the speculators, but not him presiding, true son of Apollo, prescribing in all things the measured, right ratio, preferring despair, cold certainty of sense to flaring hope, images on the horizon, realist with a cold eye, he turns from the experiment, its determinant state, and addressing the mistress, explains how marvelously indeed each part executive active organ has now revived, and fleshly chamber twin-valved contains the most multiplicity, yet essence effective, unity to do is lacked, the inner drive of living bits, the whip and will that steers. Long wait for mortal woe, for sigh sent up from tenants of the earth, a lockout sensed above, but listenership directly for divine wish, celestial aid as evidenced by instant arrival to the shapely slayer of Adonis, much mourned of Maia's smiling son. Well-heeled Hermes, the exchanger, enterprises agent, the breeze of whose passing across the highwayed world is at every crossroads felt simultaneously, and sooner than desire for resolution inflates the breast of Aristo, tourer of green ranges, his head is there, inclined, receiving the message, lips curved, the limit crosser, ringer of the world's blue dial, and exchange once ceased, the god, as a leaf fallen on pavements of Dodona, sacred to Dione, breeze caught, engages the air, lifts, weightless, swirling upwards, disappears. To reappear immediately, the mediator, to drop in planet-hopping pumps through cruder air from ether earthwards, warm Gaia's reserve, where near Arcadian Alpheus he's spilling from cool obscurity to Helios's flaming gaze, in which all things are fine and clear, into the Ionian well, wise Hodios the roadster alights, a stalk to pluck of fennel that tastes the salt breeze, and straight the ground's hold releasing, takes the short leap to Helios in Elis, its mists and marshes, where Helia the lovely is loved and feared. Transfer at dream speed to different scene, boots brushing alder leaves, the gods drift over shifting field of fog miasma, hunched tree forms half hidden, the roots ooze knitting nest of amphibia, mewling foul eels, a slip unseen, until cruising over land's heart tree, dark Hellas' hidden core, he, the hoverer, descends into twilight depression, a breeze about the psychopomp whirling, clearing below uncultivated growth, rude, upthrusting complex, other barriers to light and the detective eye. Again instant change, as the god going under thicket dome, entering inner space, huge, hollow, cavernous, where shifting glows mercurial among branch shadows, like diagrams of nerves thrown on a screen, flickering across tree walls, now dark, condensed, enclosing, now swelling, fluorescent, magnified, shoots with grace, effortless descent, and halts to wait over water, a mirroring pool dark as past time, on whose surface a mix of silver gleam and mist, like fog searched by lamps lingers, where twin-horned semele of the wandering beams, Helios' other half, after night's interval, long journey over lands alone, long gazing to catch only glimmers of her visage, change reflected of small waters, glimmer of silver leaves, visits religiously, bending like Narcissus, beloved of double-voiced echo, of her moving image, to fix in eyes' aperture the features focused, returning look, the semblance that assumes a self. Return to first scene, return to the set of stone and sea, the tide now in free flood, the progress in waves from crest to crash, repeating the first instant, the singular catastrophe, return to the spectacle on the rocks, the shocked looks about the fallen, of those rooted by remains, locked on the image of disaster, fast holding to the parts, rearranged in a form that conforms human-like, trim but unliving, so the immortal suspended, unknowing that elsewhere, unshaken, short-haired Hermes, Apollo's cajoler, has in his fennel flask caught the impossible, rendered the remedy, brought aid to the dismayed band, and he is there, toe first, tipping the earth, arm-linked from Artemis, displaying like a flower bouquet the prize pursued, in its plain case plucked by the Alpheus Olympian stream, the moonshine, marvellous, unprohibited by Phoebe's decree, and precipitously it is in the healer's hands, dabbing on orbs that stare at nowhere, pressing to lips parched by no lack of water. O golden moment, it stands, in standard if invalid form, a jerking assemblage, Hippolytus, revenant, recognizable, if transformed, a polymorph, immortal diamond faceted, the parts remastered, centrally powered, about his head steers with assessing eyes, marking the personages, their rank and worthiness, pausing at the goddess, glacially he bows, and unarcing from earth away he launches his sight out into blue heights towards the upper orbits of spheres unchanging, province of the gods, reaching a fat-free arm, splayed hand along the trajectory of vision, each finger parted as if this union of fleshly particulars, this clashing atoms of the cosmos, might incorporate, harness stars, at which from their nebulous thrones start, as at violence titanic, the celestials, shocked, anticipating. Thank you, David and Louis, for bringing me over.